You should hear what keeps him up at night.
This is what keeps me up at night. I don't understand how my fellow Americans, I don't even understand how this election is close. And yes, I'm voting for you, but I would also vote for that wall over there.
Well, he's half right. We do need a wall. To keep out gang members, fentanyl dealers, human traffickers, and Anna Navarro. What's funny, though, is that Stern actually thought that was a compliment. Stern has become such a wussified sycophant, he doesn't realize that telling Kamala that he'd vote for a wall is telling her that he knows she's as dumb as one.
Something unprecedented just happened in the world of media warfare. Howard Stern, the man who built his entire empire on never backing down from a fight, just got brutally called out on live television, and his response, complete and total silence. This is the same guy who spent decades destroying anyone who dared challenge him, the shock jock who made careers disappear with a single rant, the king of all media who never ever let an insult slide. But when Greg Gutfeld systematically dismantled him piece by piece, Stern did something nobody saw coming. He said absolutely nothing. If you're as fascinated by this media earthquake as we are, hit that subscribe button and let's dive into the most shocking celebrity feud that's rewriting the rules of late night television. Greg Gutfeld didn't just criticize Howard Stern, he performed a surgical takedown that exposed every weakness in Stern's carefully crafted new image. The Fox News host chose his words like a sniper chooses bullets, each one designed to hit where it would hurt most.
But that's how Stern can call snacking with celebs at a fancy restaurant exhausting. Exhausting. Like he finished the overnight shift in a coal mine, or hearing Kat talk about her pets.
Fair.
But I get it, life is tough, especially when you've been cut off from the world for 2 years in a $20 million beach house. I mean, you have no idea how tiring it is walking all the way from the wine cellar to the tennis court and back.
The precision was devastating. Gutfeld wasn't just making jokes, he was exposing the massive disconnect between Stern's current lifestyle and the working class audience that made him famous. But this was only the beginning of a calculated assault that would reveal something much darker about Stern's transformation.
It is incredibly brave to take this stance after you've made $300, $400 million not being woke. Right? Loving Donald Trump, exploiting the mentally ill, wearing blackface. Look at the crop of woke comics, whether it's Stern or Jimmy Kimmel, his BFF, Sarah Silverman, Joy Behar, Michael Ian Black. What do they all have in common? They wore blackface. And then they went woke. It's not a chicken or egg thing there. You know what order it came. So I call this BFR. It's blackface reparations. There's nothing in Stern's previous career that could withstand this modern witch hunt that he now embraces. So this is a form of restitution. Maybe he says, if I'm woke too, the crocodile will eat me last, but they always do eat. But I get it. He flipped from populist to elitist because now he's with elitists.
That phrase, blackface reparations, landed like a nuclear bomb. Gutfeld had just accused Stern of completely reinventing himself, not out of genuine growth, but out of pure guilt and self-preservation. The theory was as brutal as it was brilliant, suggesting that Stern's entire woke transformation was nothing more than an elaborate apology for his controversial past. But what made this attack so devastating wasn't just its accuracy, it was the timing, because what most people don't know is that Stern is facing the biggest crisis of his career, and it's happening right now. Here's the bombshell that changes everything. Howard Stern's contract with SiriusXM expires in December 2025. That's right. In less than a year, the king of all media could be dethroned permanently, and the company that made him rich, they're already preparing for life without him. SiriusXM has quietly been signing deals with younger podcasters like Alex Cooper and the Smartless crew, targeting the exact demographic that Stern has been losing for years. The writing is on the wall, and it's written in declining subscriber numbers and aging audiences.
I will say this, Dagan. I thank God for Howard Stern because he does make me feel normal by comparison. Because I'm like the Fox recluse. I don't do anything. I don't go anywhere. But he makes me look like, Pete Davidson on a...
Yeah, he's a germaphobe. Like, his wife rescues cats. That's her job, apparently, her thing. But you can get toxoplasmosis.
That's true.
Cryptosporidiosis.
AIDS.
And
no, you can't.
No,
but
you can't get.
No, you can't.
But you can get.
I mean, what are the chances I get that again?
Like a lot of diarrhea related.
The casual mockery was cutting deeper than any direct insult could. Gutfeld and his panel were treating Stern like a relic, a cautionary tale about what happens when rebels become too comfortable, and the numbers were backing up their ridicule. While Stern hides in his mansion, afraid of the world he once conquered, Gutfeld has been building an empire that's making traditional media executives panic. The question isn't whether Stern will get his contract renewed, it's whether he can survive the humiliation humiliation of being replaced by someone who learned from his playbook and perfected it. But the real shock was still coming, and it would expose just how far the mighty had fallen. The numbers don't lie, and they're absolutely devastating for Howard Stern. While he's been playing it safe in his ivory tower, Greg Gutfeld has been quietly building a media juggernaut that's crushing every traditional late-night host on television. Gutfeld's show is now averaging 2.5 million viewers nightly. That's more than Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Kimmel, and Jimmy Fallon combined. His highest-rated episode pulled in 4.9 million viewers, making it the most-watched late-night show in recent history. The man who started as a weekend show host has become the undisputed king of late-night television.
On his radio show, Howard Stern defended wokeism, saying it's a compliment when someone calls him woke. Listen.
If woke means I can't get behind Trump, which is what I think it means, or that I support people who want to be transgender, or I'm for the vaccine, dude.
The contrast couldn't be more stark. While Stern desperately tries to explain his transformation to a shrinking audience, Gutfeld is attracting viewers from across the political spectrum. His show has become appointment television for millions of Americans who feel abandoned by traditional media.
But Stern being holed up in his house that long, it explains a lot of things, like how you forget how other people live, especially in hard times like a pandemic. For the longest time, 2 years in fact, the same time Stern's been AWOL, I wondered where he went. Not physically, but mentally. I bet you did too. Remember his screeds about COVID? They were epic and angry, and not to mention wrong.
When are we going to stop putting up with the idiots in this country and just say, it's mandatory to get vaccinated? Fuck them, fuck their freedom. I want my freedom.
The rants that Stern thought would cement his relevance actually exposed how out of touch he'd become. While millions of Americans struggled with lockdowns and economic uncertainty, Stern was raging from his multi-million-dollar compound, completely disconnected from the reality his audience was living. Gutfeld saw the opening and took it. Every time Stern tried to position himself as the voice of reason, Gutfeld reminded viewers of the massive privilege gap between them. The result, a complete audience migration that traditional media is still trying to understand. Yet despite this public humiliation, despite watching his successor systematically dismantle his legacy, Howard Stern's response would shock everyone, including his most loyal fans. Here's what makes this story so extraordinary. Howard Stern, the man who never met a fight he wouldn't pick, who built his career on verbal warfare, who destroyed careers with devastating comebacks. This man chose to stay completely silent. This is unprecedented. Throughout his career, Stern has feuded with everyone from Opie and Anthony to rival DJs to network executives. He's never backed down, never ignored a challenge, never let an insult slide. His feuds were legendary, his comebacks were brutal, and his victories were total.
When I watch them on Saturday Night Live with the where they have Maya Rudolph playing you, I hate it. I don't want you being made fun of.
Oh my God.
There's too much at stake. I believe the entire future of this country right now, I mean, as America, land of the free, home of the brave, I think it's literally on the line.
So a guy who's supposed to be funny for a living now claims her candidacy is too important to joke about. This is a guy who once joked right after the Columbine massacre that the killers should have raped the students before killing them. Not that I like that Stern, but this pendulum swing from saying the most tasteless thing in the universe to putting your balls in a Tic Tac container. You gotta wonder what's going on here. It's striking that the king of the most misogynistic humor ever now turns into a breathless over a progressive, hopelessly shallow candidate.
The transformation was so complete, so jarring, that even Stern's defenders struggled to explain it. The man who once joked about national tragedies now refused to allow any criticism of certain figures. The shock jock who built his empire on offensive humor had become the speech police. But the silence in response to Gutfeld's attacks revealed something deeper. This wasn't strategic, this wasn't taking the high road. This was the sound of a man who had no defense for the truth.
Happy Friday, America! Oh man, tonight is a special night. It's Feminine Friday, where all the panelists are women. Tonight we have Kennedy. Yeah! David McDowell. Pat Tim. And Janine Garofalo.
Yes.
All right.
Truth
A
about
long
cats
way
and
for a
dogs.
meat joke. Okay, I hope you had a good week. I did, and no thanks to Howard Stern. True, the New York Post reported that Stern hit a chic restaurant in NYC with a crew of A-listers, including Jimmy Kimmel, Jennifer Aniston, Jon Hamm, Justin Theroux, Jason Bateman. I was not invited.
The casual dismissal was perhaps more devastating than any direct attack. Gutfeld was treating Stern like an afterthought, a punchline, a relic of a bygone era, and Stern's continued silence only reinforced the image of irrelevance. But there was one final twist that would prove Gutfeld's point better than any monologue ever could. Sometimes reality writes the perfect script, and that's exactly what happened when Howard Stern emerged from his 2-year isolation to have dinner with Hollywood's elite. What should have been a simple night out became the most damning evidence of everything Gutfeld had been saying.
Stern got even more pathetic, wondering how she doesn't nap.
When you said you don't nap, I get it, because like what you've taken on is extraordinarily difficult. And I mean, do you feel the pressure of the moment in the sense that, like when I met you out in the hall, I said, I'm really nervous because I want this to go well for you. I want it to go well for the country.
Hold on. I need a minute.
The nervousness was palpable. This was Howard Stern, the man who once made celebrities squirm in their seats, now fawning over politicians like a starstruck teenager. The transformation was so complete that even his supporters were embarrassed. But it got worse. After dining with Jennifer Aniston, Jimmy Kimmel, and other A-listers at an expensive restaurant, Stern went on his radio show and called the experience exhausting. He actually complained about how difficult it was to leave his multi-million-dollar mansion to eat gourmet food with movie stars.
This definition of woke, it's if you call someone a know-it-all, you're not complimenting them on the breadth of their knowledge. Yeah. You're saying you don't know as much as you think you know. So yeah, woke doesn't have anything to do with vaccines. What it really means is sort of a slavish devotion to left-wing ideology and then repeating it so you can get social credit.
Right.
That's really what it means.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you're smarter than anybody. And he had said in another part of this that, because I believe in the science. Well, if you believed in the science, you wouldn't be hiding out like Howard Hughes in your mansion.
This comparison to Howard Hughes was perfect. Both men started as innovators who revolutionized their industries. Both became reclusive billionaires who lost touch with reality. Both became prisoners of their own success, surrounded by yes-men and insulated from the world they once understood. Gutfeld had exposed the truth that Stern's most loyal fans were afraid to admit. The rebel had become the establishment. The outsider had become the insider. The man who once spoke for the forgotten had forgotten them entirely. What we're witnessing isn't just a feud between two media personalities. It's a seismic shift in how entertainment and commentary work in America. The old guard, represented by Stern's sanitized approach, is being replaced by a new generation of provocateurs who understand that authenticity trumps everything.
I always hate that argument, like, what happened to the old Stern, or what people have changed. That's not what this is about. It's a weird disconnect.
Well,
What?
he hasn't changed.
No.
People have been calling him insane for 40 years.
Yeah,
It
that's
just used to be, this guy's nuts. And now they're like, oh, well, we're worried about Howard. He needs help.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll tell you, though, I'm a little sympathetic because what you said is correct, but I'm also a germaphobe.
Yeah.
And, you know, I just have a smaller apartment.
Yes.
So it's like
Striking that the king of the most misogynistic humor ever now turns into a breathless over a progressive, hopelessly shallow candidate. But maybe that's the explanation. This is Stern's self-imposed penance for subjugating women to demoralizing stunts, capitalizing on desperate females thirsting for attention, even if it's from an oily paddle striking their bare asses.
The final blow was surgical in its precision. Gutfeld had connected all the dots, explaining not just what Stern had become, but why. The transformation wasn't evolution, it was penance. The woke posturing wasn't genuine, it was guilt. The safe interviews weren't maturity, they were cowardice. Gutfeld had done something that seemed impossible. He had out-rebelled the ultimate rebel. While Stern played it safe, Gutfeld took risks. While Stern sought approval, Gutfeld courted controversy. While Stern protected his legacy, Gutfeld built a new empire. The ratings speak for themselves. The silence speaks volumes. The changing of the guard is complete. Howard Stern's silence in the face of Greg Gutfeld's attacks tells us everything we need to know about the current state of American media. When the man who never backed down from a fight chooses not to fight, it's not because he's taking the high road. It's because he knows he can't win. Stern's transformation from rebel to establishment figure is a cautionary tale about the price of success. When you have everything to lose, you stop taking the risks that made you successful in the first place. When you're worried about protecting your legacy, you stop building it. Gutfeld represents something that traditional media doesn't understand: the hunger for authenticity in an age of manufactured outrage. His audience doesn't just want to be entertained. They want to feel like someone is speaking their language, fighting their fight, and refusing to apologize for it. The real question isn't whether Howard Stern will respond to these attacks. It's whether he even can. When you've spent years building a new image, admitting that your critics might be right means admitting that everything you've become is a lie. Sometimes the most powerful statement is the one you don't make. But in this case, stern silence isn't power, it's surrender, and everyone knows it. What do you think? Has Howard Stern lost his edge, or is he just evolving with the times? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more explosive celebrity stories that everyone's talking about. The media landscape is changing faster than ever, and we'll be here to break it all down for you.